Most men tend to make the same mistake when they're getting to know a woman. They start asking. They ask about her childhood, her ex-boyfriends, her last heartbreak, even her past experiences. And on the surface, it seems genuine, right? Like you're simply trying to connect. But here's the reality. The second you ask, she begins to curate. She edits. She filters. Not necessarily because she's trying to be deceptive, but because that's the natural way people protect themselves. Which means the version of her past you end up hearing is the version she wants you to know. But what if you didn't need to ask? What if you could uncover her past? Not from the stories she chooses to tell, but through the signs she's not even aware she's showing. Because the truth is this, people don't just speak about their past. They live it. It shows up in their habits, their reactions, their pauses, their offhand remarks, even in the way they look at you when you say certain things. Her history is written all over her, if you know how to spot it. You don't have to turn into Sherlock Holmes, and you definitely don't have to grill her. What you do need is to observe. And once you know how, you'll learn more about her than even her closest friends do. You'll see whether she's still haunted by someone, whether she's found healing, whether she's ready to build something new, or still stuck living in the ruins of something old. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to read those signs, what they truly reveal, and how to protect yourself from being blindsided by a story you never asked to be written into. Number 1. Her relationship with attention. Social cues. One of the simplest ways to get a glimpse into a woman's emotional past is by noticing how she handles attention, particularly from men. Not just how she reacts when you compliment her, but how she moves in a crowd, how she engages online, how she behaves when the spotlight falls on her. Does she deflect it with humility and stay grounded? Or does she glow as if it's the first time anyone has ever really seen her? Pay close attention to how often she brings up male attention, without being prompted. If she's constantly mentioning who's in her DMs, how many guys hit on her at the gym, or how men just won't stop chasing her, it may not be about the stories, it could be about the need behind them. A woman who once felt invisible, overlooked, or emotionally neglected, whether by a partner or during her upbringing, often learns to measure her value by how much attention she receives. And the tricky part is, she might not even recognize that in herself. It's not necessarily vanity, it's about validation. There's a real difference between a woman who enjoys attention and one who depends on it to feel whole. The first is playful, the second can be dangerous. Because when the attention stops coming from you, she might start seeking it elsewhere, even unintentionally. That's not betrayal, it's an emotional dependency. You're not trying to judge her by how she dresses or how often she posts selfies. You're trying to understand why she does it. Is she craving admiration or genuine connection? That single question can often tell you more about her emotional past than any conversation ever could. Number 2. How she talks about other women. You can learn a surprising amount about a woman, not just from how she talks to you, but from how she talks about other women. Pay close attention to the little comments she makes when she brings up her friends, coworkers, or even strangers. Is her tone warm and supportive, or is it sharp, sarcastic, judgmental, even competitive? If every woman she references is a mess, too much, fake, or probably cheating on her boyfriend, that's not just a personality trait. That's a mirror reflecting her own unhealed wounds. Old betrayals, rivalries, and insecurities that still live inside her. What you're really listening for isn't just the words, it's the pain underneath. Women often project their emotional history onto others. The woman who constantly criticizes others for being flirtatious may have once been cheated on. The one who doubts other women's success might feel like she's constantly behind. And if she ever says, "I just don't get along with other women," don't mistake that for strength. That's not independence. It's often trauma wearing confidence like a costume. It could mean she was hurt in past friendships, or that she's come to see other women as rivals instead of allies. If she's truly at peace with herself, chances are she'll be more at peace with other women. But if every woman is the enemy, ask yourself, what taught her that life is a competition she has to survive? These aren't hidden messages. They're clear signs if you're willing to listen not to the gossip, but to the pattern. That's where her truth hides. Number 3. Conflict style. What she does when things go wrong. If you want to understand someone's emotional past, don't just observe how they act when everything is smooth. Watch how they behave when it's not. Conflict has a way of dragging old pain up to the surface. And I'm not just talking about big blow-ups or dramatic scenes. I mean those small, everyday misalignments, when a plan falls through, when you forget something small, or when she feels unheard. Does she go quiet and shut down? Does she get angry, assign blame, or try to guilt you? Or does she try to understand, express herself calmly, and move forward? Those aren't just quirks, they're echoes of how she learned to survive emotional discomfort. A woman who's been betrayed, neglected, or abandoned in the past might respond to even mild conflict with fear or defensiveness. She might go silent because she once learned that speaking up led to punishment. Or she might lash out because in her world, vulnerability always came at a cost. Either way, those reactions are rooted in history. You'll see it in how quickly she jumps to conclusions, how she reacts to misunderstanding, or how intensely she responds to something small. If she assumes the worst about you without evidence, she's likely still reacting to someone else's story. Conflict becomes less about what's happening now and more about what already happened then. This is why you don't need to dig deep or ask probing questions. People act out their emotional past and then they explain it. And conflict? That's where the old wounds come out of hiding. You're not there to fix it, you're there to notice. And once you do, you'll have to decide whether you're ready to be part of the healing process or caught in the aftermath of a war that's still going on inside her. Number 4. Her relationship timeline, without asking directly. You don't have to come out and ask, when was your last relationship, to learn about her romantic past. In fact, asking directly usually gives you the polished version, the cleaned-up story she's comfortable sharing. But if you really pay attention, her words will drop clues everywhere. It's in how she refers to shared memories. I used to love that little sushi spot. We went there all the time. That we? That's not about a friend. That's a quiet breadcrumb from a relationship she might not be ready to talk about yet. You'll also start noticing how she frames time. If she casually mentions, that happened about 2 years ago, she's giving you a timeline without even thinking about it. But if she avoids placing events in time, or skips over emotional transitions like they're no big deal, that may point to lingering emotions she hasn't worked through. You'll hear it in how she describes change. After everything collapsed, or I had to rebuild myself. Phrases that reveal a deeper recovery story. So stop relying on direct questions. The most revealing information shows up when someone feels relaxed, not interrogated. She'll tell you plenty, just not in bullet points or labeled events. Sometimes, the things she skips over entirely are the loudest messages she's sending. You just need to be the kind of man who notices the silence. Number 5. Her views on men in general. One of the most telling things a woman will show you, without intending to, is how she speaks about men overall. And I don't mean how she talks about you. I mean how she talks about men as a whole. What does she say about her exes, male friends, celebrities? Is her tone light, neutral, playful? Or is there bitterness, sharpness, or guarded energy behind her words? Because that tone has history. When she jokes men are the worst, it might sound harmless at first. But if that joke pops up over and over with a little sting behind her laugh, it usually comes from something real. Someone taught her to feel that way. Or maybe it wasn't just one man. It was a pattern. When she views men as liars, cheaters, or emotionally unavailable, it's not because she read that somewhere. It's because she lived it. And even if she's sweet, flirty, and affectionate with you now, those beliefs don't just vanish overnight. They shape how she reacts, especially under stress. She might grow suspicious when you're quiet. She might distance herself before you even understand why. That's not random. That's memory. This isn't about judging her. It's about seeing her clearly, seeing where those beliefs were formed. Because if she's still carrying the emotional weight left by other men, eventually she'll hand that weight to you, and she'll expect you to carry it. Number 6. How she talks about her family. If you want to get to the root of how a woman forms emotional bonds, pay close attention to the way she speaks about her family. especially her parents. You don't have to push for deep confessions or unpack her childhood trauma. Just listen. The way she casually mentions her dad, whether there's warmth, distance, indifference, or quiet resentment, says more than 1,000 words ever could. If she says something like, "Yeah, my dad was around, I guess. We weren't that close, but whatever," that whatever is carrying a lot of emotional weight. That kind of dismissal often masks disappointment that's been buried so long it's become her normal. The relationship she had with her father in particular often shapes how she views men, trust, and emotional safety. If love was something she had to earn, she might now feel like she constantly has to prove herself in a relationship. If affection came inconsistently, warm one day, cold the next, she may expect that same kind of unpredictability from you. But if she was raised in an environment that was secure and emotionally safe, that balance shows up in the way she navigates conflict, how she self-soothes, and how she voices her needs. Her family dynamic is like the operating system running silently in the background of her emotional life. It doesn't scream, but it controls everything. This isn't about prying, it's about noticing. How does she react when you mention family holidays? What's her tone like when she talks about her mom in passing? Does she light up when recalling childhood memories, or does she roll her eyes at the idea of family time? These are small, telling clues about the emotional blueprint she grew up with. The truth is, people rarely outgrow the emotional language they were raised on. So if you want to understand how she's likely to love you, start by recognizing how she learned to love at home. Number 7. What makes her emotional and what doesn't? There's something incredibly revealing about what stirs emotion in a woman, and just as revealing what doesn't. You're not looking for dramatic outbursts or tears on command. You're paying attention to those subtle moments when something touches her deeply, sometimes without warning. Maybe it's a quiet moment during a movie about loss. Maybe it's a song about betrayal that she always skips. Or maybe it's the opposite. Things that would usually trigger emotion in others don't seem to move her at all. These reactions aren't random. They're emotional echoes, clues, scars, and sometimes numbness. What gets to her, or what doesn't, can reveal old hurts, unresolved pain, or emotional armor she's worn for so long it feels like skin. Maybe she gets unusually upset when she's left out of a group plan, or someone raises their voice in frustration. If her response feels disproportionate, it's not about the moment, it's about a memory. Nobody overreacts without a reason. That reaction is a flare from her past saying, "This happened before," or "I'm still carrying that wound." On the flip side, if she seems emotionally shut down when you open up or doesn't show empathy when someone else shares their pain, that's a signal too. Detachment isn't always resilience. It can be the armor of someone who had to grow up too fast, or who learned early on that feeling deeply was dangerous. You're not going to uncover this by asking, "What makes you emotional?" You'll find it out by watching. Her emotional reactions, or lack of them, are like breadcrumbs leading to a version of her you haven't met yet. And if you follow those trails, you'll start to see the difference between a woman who has faced her past and one who's still trying to outrun it. Number 8. Final tip. Observation over interrogation. The smartest men don't ask dozens of questions, they observe. They don't press for details, they pay attention to the quiet. They wait for the truth to reveal itself through her patterns, her behaviors, her unguarded moments. That's the power of observation over interrogation. Any guy can ask, "What happened in your last relationship?" and hear the neat, practiced version. But the man who watches closely already knows, because he saw the flicker in her eyes when plans changed. He noticed how she shut down when things got too close. He saw how she lit up when someone praised her for something real, something deeper than her appearance. These aren't random behaviors. These are emotional fingerprints. And learning to read them doesn't make you cold. It makes you emotionally fluent. It makes you the kind of man who doesn't fall for the mask. Because when you rely solely on words, you're often buying the version of herself she created to survive. But when you learn to observe, you begin to see the real woman underneath, the one who might still be in pain, the one who's growing, or the one who isn't ready. Either way, you'll know. And that kind of awareness, that's clarity, that's strength, That's power. So don't chase answers, let them come to you. Give her the space to reveal herself naturally, unintentionally. Because the truth always shows up, in behavior, in silence, in pattern. The only question is, are you paying enough attention to see it? If you've made it all the way to this point, you're already ahead of most men. Because you're no longer just hearing what a woman says, you're learning to see who she really is. And once you start observing with that level of clarity, your dating life transforms. You stop wasting time, you stop getting caught up in the highlight reel, and you begin connecting in a way that's real, intentional, and on your own terms. If even one part of this gave you insight you didn't have before, drop a comment below and let me know which part hit the hardest. Was it something she said? Or something she didn't? I read every single one, and if you're the kind of man who wants to understand the deeper layers, the psychology, the patterns, the emotional cues most guys overlook, hit that subscribe button right now. This is just the beginning. Until then, keep your eyes sharp, your standards high, and your peace protected. What are your views on this? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I will personally read all of your comments. And if you seriously want to level up in life, don't forget to show some love by hitting the like and subscribe button. Stay strong. Until next time.